Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. Global here. Um, Action-packed day today. You know, we had the Indy 500. Uh, PGA was going on. WNBA had a doubleheader, and then the NBA playoffs. Want to talk a little bit about the elimination Game 7, OK City Thunder, or the Denver versus the Denver Nuggets. Not or, but versus the Denver Nuggets. Um, Ultimately, Shea Gilgis uh, left this series victorious. He's now 1-1, as I remember. Last Game 7 he played in was 2020. They played the Rockets. He's the playoff leader right now in 30-point or better performances with 7. With that being said, he's got his hands full against the Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Um, Probably should have got it last year. Most likely will get it this year. Um, I'm happy for him. Regardless, you know, he's on his way to a record-setting supermax. That should probably uh, outdo current league leader uh, Jason Tatum. Speaking of contracts, Nikola Jokic walking away this season a little disappointed. Couple eyebrow-raising comments in the press conference, not believing the team might have what it needs to win. Is non-committal at the moment towards the Denver Nuggets. It sounded like nothing directly said, but definitely wasn't quick to let them know that, you know, I'm coming back. When you factor in the Denver Nuggets were without Mike Malone, who they won their last championship with, when you factor in the fact that it was once believed they were going to be a dynasty, this season was a disappointment from a standpoint just, you know, you spend that kind of money you did, given, you know, all these extensions out, in particular to Jamal Murray on the eve of the season, despite, you know, a questionable playoff performance the year before and a poor Team Canada appearance. It kind of showed enough signs, and despite a legacy year, the Denver Nuggets, despite a legacy year from Jokic's legacy performance, was oftentimes finding himself the lone wolf out there. Christian Braun was magnificent. He's definitely a building block, but they need more. And to this point, until Christian becomes more of a off the dribble shooter, spot up 3-point shooter, I still like him better as a 6-man. Strauss is a high energy guy, great scorer, high volume scorer, if unleashed. His play was a little choppy this season from minutes to, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Peyton Watson continues to show signs that he is going to be a serviceable rotational player. One of the more profound presence in terms of shot blocking in the league. And high energy guys that you can count on, or at least he's getting there. Clearly, he has the trust of Jokic, so that's an automatic cosign, but he's absolutely holding his own. Shout out to Dave Talk Sports. He put me on to him a couple years ago when I was originally evaluating the overall roster of the Denver Nuggets. He's proven to continue to Peyton Watson, that is, climb up the ranks and earn more trust within the Denver organization. Obviously, they're no longer with Calvin Booth, so that'll be interesting. But ultimately, when I look at the main problems here, it's going to boil down to Michael Porter. 6'10", but doesn't really use his size. Uh, Obviously, the whole reason why he was even able to slide to Denver in the draft in the 20s was due to a back injury that some question would he even be able to play. Obviously, he would have went way much higher if there was no back issues. You go watch his tapes. He has one of the best high school tapes that you could have ever seen. Uh, he was a violent slasher, and 3-level scorer. But nowadays he's really just truly reduced to spot up shooting. But his catch and shoot game was so lethal. Uh, he had the confidence of the Denver Nuggets organization. Uh, Aaron Gordon, obviously another building block, cornerstone piece, despite his age. Gutsy performance. We've seen guys like OG Anunoby, Steph not be able to play with a similar hamstring injury. There's multiple. You could name many people on the list who've had these hamstring and not do what he did. Multiple times in the game, he was leading the team, both sides in rebounds against a healthy, lengthy front line like the Oklahoma City Thunder with Chet Holmgren and Hartenstein, and still managed to hold his own. In fact, like I said, lead him in the category of rebounds. Just truly, I mean, that was a legacy playoff run. It was just truly amazing. You couldn't have asked for anything more from Aaron Gordon. The three-point shooting established himself as a marksman. The clutch shots down the stretch. The small intangible, the quote-unquote small intangible plays, he did that. But it's going to boil down to Jan Murray and Michael Porter. Jamal saved himself, I think, enough to be able to stick around. But what they do as small forward, and the options are limited. I don't know, maybe they take on Paul George, take a risk there. There's not many moves you can make with that kind of contract. Maybe a Cam Johnson from Brooklyn. I don't know. CBA is tricky, but definitely something has to switch. There was little passive jokes during the season where there was hints the team wasn't, from local media, that the team really wasn't on board with Michael Porter, saying things like, oh, there was a team dinner, when there really wasn't. But I don't think they were joking in some ways, because it's clear he's a cavity right now, and getting bullied by Jay Williams when he gives up probably minus 5 inches to him on the court height wise. So even if he's not the most laterally gifted, it's just no reason to be getting dogged like that. I don't want to demonize Michael Porter. I think he still has a place in the league, but there was moments where it was really truly rough to watch him conduct himself out there, and he's been a ghost. The theme for the Denver Nuggets is depth, and with those albatross of a contract, it's going to be real difficult for them to really create any type of substantive depth. And as we've learned this season, anything's possible with the removal of Luka in Dallas, and coaches being fired at the most random times at the particular tail end of the season. I just don't see any point for Denver to continue like this. You got Aaron Gordon, you got Christian Braun, you got Jokic. As heartwarming as in a performance it was to witness Russell Westbrook, I think that should be it for him and it's time for him to wrap it up career-wise. I don't think there's any more to prove. I don't think there's any more selling he can do in terms of contribution. It's the NBA. You'll be surprised, though, who would carve out a spot for him. But he's already played on a lot of different teams, from OKC to the Rockets to the Wizards to the Lakers to the Clippers to the Nuggets. At this point, it's like time to walk away from the game. The only thing that makes me believe he's not is that fact that there is no farewell tour. So he's definitely one of those guys who would deserve to have one. Point guards are more important than they've ever been. I don't know if he can be a mentor. Maybe he goes somewhere like Chicago. I don't know, but the athleticism is still there, but there's still something very off, especially at this phase in his career. I think a lot of his concerns is when he's planting. If you go watch that young version of him, he could stop on the dime. He would glide in midair, and when he'd plant, it was one step. It was just plant. Now it takes him multiple steps to land when he upon finishing or attempting at the rim, and so it's really like he's holding his breath. Even just shooting the ball, you see how unusually close the stance of his feet are. He's a guy who's very paranoid about someone running under him or anything like that. Um, but again, I don't have any clue on what's on GM's minds when evaluating what Russell has or doesn't have. I thought the signing of him going to Denver, it was a success. Let me be very clear. He superseded all expectations that I had for him going to Denver. It worked out even better than I could have imagined. But I just can't imagine another 82 season from him. But then again, like I said, without a farewell tour, which is definitely seemed grossly wrong, then maybe he gets signed. During training camp, someone gets hurt in the off season, and all of a sudden the team needs a point guard. That has championship aspirations. I don't know. Maybe he goes to Memphis to mentor Ja. Anything's possible. Maybe he goes to the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics need a veteran at point guard. Maybe they got to move off Drew Holiday or Porzingis. They're in cost-cutting mode. Anything's possible, but it was a success. It was a good acquisition by Calvin Booth this offseason and proven to be more good than bad. But ultimately, the Nuggets got to get fresh, and whatever GM they get probably will be having to resort to the international game to get outstanding production from limited budget, because the budget and cap is very extremely tight right now. This is one nucleus though with Jan Murray, Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic that I think it's time to split up. At the end of the day, Mike Malone was the fall guy, but MPJ got to go. And I don't mean to really target him. I know he's been through hell the last couple years, especially with everything going on in his family. I really do. But sometimes a change of scenery is necessary to be reborn again, and I think that needs to be done. They definitely had a chance to win the series, obviously going to 7, but there's a staleness going on, and and it's more than just a coaching disconnect or a front office disconnect. I wish all sides the very best. I think Jokic season was amazing. This was the first postseason where I really felt like he went against some two-way centers with respect to Zubac and Hartenstein and even Holmgren getting multiple looks. I don't know why Caruso was guarding them at certain points, but they got the W. They can all end up being prosperous no matter what in the end. But this was the most battle-tested postseason I think of his career, and he passed it. Especially with the raves that Zubac was getting in the first round going into the postseason. Some even were saying he deserved depoy consideration. He definitely held his own. He obviously wasn't out there doing 60 ball on the Clippers like that, but he was he did great, and it wasn't his fault obviously. And the Nuggets are special. They just got to make some tinkering. I don't know how. They're one of the more polarizing teams to watch this offseason to see what they're going to do. Hope this was informative, Utopians. I'll try to do better next time. Global out.